What's going on, folks? Another week, mid-October. The year's flying by. Welcome again to another episode of Reflecting Him, where we believe that our greatest duty and our highest honor is to reflect God's image outside of Eden. So this week in this episode, what I want to talk about is the difference between self-control and self-esteem. Because in my professional and even ministerial experience, I've noticed that there are certain movements, certain aspects of the academic realm or the religious ministerial realm where there's an inordinate focus, an abnormal focus on building up somebody's self-esteem. So let's talk about that for a second. This episode is not going to venture off too much into the political arena or too deeply into, theology. I really just want to focus on something very simple, and that is what should be more important in your life and in mine is an emphasis on the need to exercise self-control over this obsession with wanting to feel good. So self-esteem. What is self-esteem? You and I can define it very loosely as our view, our estimation of self, how we view ourselves, what we think about ourselves. For example, I can have a low self-esteem, right? And believe that I'm just a no good, I'm a nobody, I'm never going to amount to anything, and have this negative, this pessimistic and very cynical view of myself and by extension of life. Have a low self-esteem. A high self-esteem might be characterized as someone who's overly ambitious, maybe borderline arrogant and narcissistic, and just feel like nothing can conquer them, like they're unstoppable. They've got this really, really high self-esteem. So what's wrong with that? What's wrong with, for example, wanting to feel good? What's wrong with wanting to have a healthy, right, self-esteem? Well, nothing. Nothing's wrong with wanting a healthy self-esteem. The problem is because of the influences perhaps in certain academic circles, or maybe we adhere to in the religious arena, we adhere to this obsession with believing that God wants us healthy and happy no matter what at all times. Self-esteem, if taken out of its proper context, can lead to a bad lifestyle, poor habits. For example, let's say I did 18 years in prison, and for the majority of my life while I was locked up, I was, depressed and angry and all those melancholy emotions that most, if not all, inmates experience during their incarceration. Let's say for 18 years, all I was focusing on while I was locked up is making sure that I felt good about myself no matter what. So let's say, for example, I'm engaged in some illegal activity there at the unit, but I feel good about the fact that I'm running game, or I'm running commissary, or I'm speaking for a dorm, or I'm running the chaplaincy department. Like, I feel really good about myself. I've got a good self-esteem. But in me having a good self-esteem, I am living a very immoral lifestyle. I'm stepping on people. I'm doing things that are shady. But it doesn't matter, right? Because I feel good. And some people might interpret it in two different ways. Number one, they might say, man, Ruben is really ambitious. Ruben is really, he's a go-getter. He's going to go get it. He's real positive and he's outgoing. And another person might interpret my actions as, man, that guy's arrogant. He's ruthless, he's cutthroat, and he doesn't care who he steps on as long as he gets what he wants. I'm doing the same thing, but it's being interpreted and seen as two different things. So this is why I believe, again, in my professional and ministerial experience, the focus on wanting to feel good, whether you're at work, at school, in your life, at home, in your marriage, locked up or not, if the focus is feeling good, then the nature of what I do is going to be sidestepped. My actions aren't going to be as important because the focus is, I've got to feel good. I've got to make sure that I'm positive and I'm upbeat and nobody can stop me. And I've got to be aggressive and I've got to be, and I get it. As a counselor, I understand that it's important to be able to be assertive and have healthy boundaries and be a respectful citizen. I get all that. That's not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is you and I going overboard with the self-esteem issue. Because if I'm focused on just feeling good no matter what, I got to feel good about myself no matter what, then what's going to happen is I'm going to engage in certain behaviors. I'm going to do certain things that are going to cost not just my reputation as a man of integrity, but it's also going to hurt other people because I'm focused on, I got to feel good. I've got to feel good about myself. I can't let nothing stop me. And again, I understand the need to be assertive and optimistic in a climate that, quite frankly, is out to get you, right? Especially if you're locked up. But if we turn our attention from self-esteem to self-control, now we're talking about something different. Because, again, back to my experience being locked up 18 years, if I'm gone half of my life and I'm subjected to a confined environment, I'm locked up, I'm in this cutthroat dog-eat-dog world, and I'm just focusing on trying to feel good no matter what, then I'm not going to have the discipline, the mental, the spiritual, the emotional discipline to do the right thing. First of all, for myself, and making sure that my rehabilitation, my recovery is utmost and at the forefront of everything that I do. Because let's be honest, if I don't take care of me, then how can I take care of the next person? Because as we all know, you can't give what you don't have. So if my focus, whether I'm locked up or not, right, but I'm talking about my experience as an inmate, if my focus while I was locked up was on self-control, then I'm going to have a lot of bad days. I'm going to feel like poop many, many times. In fact, I experienced years where I just felt like there was no way out. I was depressed, I was sad, I wasn't getting visits, something happened, I lost my job. Like, things just, hello, it's prison life. But during those moments, I wasn't focused on trying to make myself feel good no matter what. What I was focused on is my character development. What I was focused on is making sure that I was exercising self-control. Because in the moments when I was feeling down and in the dumps, it was my exercise of self-control that eventually got me feeling better. Whereas if in those moments when I was feeling like poop and I was down in the dumps, if I wasn't focusing on self-control, then I would begin, and a lot of people do this, I will begin to engage in all kind of behaviors and do things to make myself feel good because I didn't want to feel bad. So self-esteem, the need to have self-esteem is good. Don't get me wrong. But what we need more than anything else is self-control. I need to know that I am going to be, how can I say this? In control of my emotions. And if I'm in control of my emotions, if I'm exercising emotional regulation, then feeling good is eventually going to happen because I'm taking care of my emotional, spiritual, and mental business. I'm taking care of that first. I'm working on character development. Because I can talk about my stepdaughter who's 17, or I can talk about Justin, my 5-year-old son. They are emotional wrecks, right? So they're doing everything they can as kids to experience as much happiness as possible because they haven't matured enough mentally or emotionally. They haven't matured enough to the point where they realize that, hey, feeling good isn't what life is really all about. Life is really, and if you're listening to this episode or you're hearing this clip, what you've learned in your life is that whether or not you feel good or bad, What's important is self-control. What's important is that when you lose that job, or you go through that divorce, or you lose a loved one, or something bad happens in your life, you're going to have all these emotions. You're just going to go through this turmoil, a time of just emotional upheaval. You're going to go through that. And you know from experience that what you need in that moment isn't to feel good, to have a high self-esteem, because it's hard to have that right in those moments. But what you need is self-control. What you need is emotional, mental discipline. So let's talk about why people focus a lot on the self-esteem trip. Why is it that in your life or in mine, or when you see other people going through this, they just want to make sure that no matter what, they aren't going to be down in the dumps. Let's do this. What if being down in the dumps is exactly where you and I need to be, so that we can realize that there are certain things that we're doing that are not good for us? Because let's take Michael Jordan, for example. Let's say Michael Jordan never lost a game. Not in the regular season, not in the playoffs, not in the finals. Michael Jordan never lost a game, never got cut when he was in high school. Like, he never experienced loss. I'll promise you, he would never be who he is today. Because it is through loss, it is through failure and setback that you and I experience the lessons that we need. It is when I'm down in the dumps when I have to be able to do this. All right, what's going on? What do I need to change? What perspective, what paradigm shift do I need to take on? It's those moments of contemplation that give me the wisdom that I need to become a better person. And I can only enjoy those moments of maturity and growth when I'm down in the dumps. But if I'm overly focused on wanting to feel good and having a high self-esteem at all costs, no matter what, then I'm going to become arrogant. And I'm going to literally be in denial of the need for change that I need to take on in my life. Because I'm not looking at what decisions I'm making that are putting me in wrecks, that are resulting in low self-esteem. All I'm focusing on is, man, I got to feel better no matter what. And then I'm sidestepping and I'm just ignoring all the needs that I need to make and making better decisions. Not doing this, not doing that, not going here, not going there. I'm not going to be worried about that, because in my estimation, that's not my problem. What my problem is I shouldn't be feeling bad. I shouldn't have low self-esteem. I shouldn't be down in the dumps. I should be happy and positive. I should always be. You've seen it. In fact, you might have experienced it. Now again, I'm not submitting to you right now that we shouldn't pursue a healthy self-esteem. We shouldn't pursue feeling good. There's nothing wrong with that. My point is that sometimes I believe, again, in my experience, that people focus too much on feeling a certain way as opposed to being a certain person, no matter what the circumstances look like. Did you get that? Let me say that again. It's important for us to not focus on feeling a certain way more so than being a certain person. Because stuff happens. Life is tough. Jobs are lost. Loved ones pass away. Stuff happens. Fires, hurricanes, natural disasters, all kind of things, all manner of misfortune is what you and I experience. Like, stuff is always there to hurt you and make you feel bad. But what are you going to do about it? There's just one thing I would tell the inmates when I was doing classes, whether as an inmate or working at the Kyle unit. When I'm doing group in the dorms, I would tell people it's better for me to look at life as if it were a series of opportunities and not obstacles. Because if all I'm doing is looking at everything that makes me feel bad as an obstacle, then I'm going to be more inclined to look at those circumstances as my enemy. If misfortune is viewed, if I look at misfortune as, man, it's my enemy, then I'm going to have the wrong attitude and mindset towards it, and I may not take from it the nuggets of wisdom that are planted there by God for me to take. Instead, I'm going to develop this, I'm just going to be, and probably become a product of something that I wasn't supposed to become of. Maybe I'm supposed to learn, for example, that my incarceration was designed to teach me how to be a man, as opposed to how to just survive and make it, fake it to make it. Whatever it is you're going through right now in your life, I want to encourage you. Don't focus so much on escaping low feelings or low self-esteem. Don't focus so much on trying to feel good. Don't do that. I promise you. Because if that's your primary focus, feeling good, then you're going to sidestep, you're going to ignore the nuggets of wisdom that are awaiting you in those moments of despair. I want to learn more how to be a good person, as opposed to just feeling like a good person. Not just feeling good about myself, but knowing that what I'm doing is good, period, regardless of how I feel or what the situation may be. So I want you guys to think about that. I want you to focus on not so much, again, feeling good, but on being good, because it is the quest, the sole quest for self-esteem that gets us in trouble. This in fact is why a lot of people resort to drugs and alcohol. They feel a certain way, they feel low, something happened, yada yada yada, and they don't want to feel that way. So the medication for that low self-esteem is a drug, is an addiction, is a promiscuous lifestyle. But if they weren't focused so much on escaping the low self-esteem moments, but rather focused on but being the right person. Not having self-esteem, but having self-control. Because I promise you, and I've learned this so much in my personal life, if I focus on my character, my conduct, if I focus on that, then that emotional, that give and take, that ebbing and flowing of my emotional state, it's going to get better. Because you could be the richest person in the world and still be depressed. You could be the richest person in the world and still commit suicide. But you can be the brokest, the most economically disadvantaged person in the world. But if you have the right perspective, then you're going to live a good life. Because you already know that at that point in your life, feeling good shouldn't be the priority, but doing good and being good. So again, thank you for tuning in. I hope that you guys got something from this, and I want you to remember that no matter what, it's okay to feel good. It's okay to want to experience the highs in life. There's nothing wrong with that. But I want you to learn, and I want you to remember that you don't develop wisdom, you don't gain the nuggets that you need to become successful in life. You don't gain those in the mountain. You gain those in the valley. God bless you guys. Thank you again, and we'll see you on the next one.